Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders, the elder bishops, the great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, to the men on the highways and the byways that are pushing out this word in truth and sincerity, and to the remnant men, women, and children of the elect. To you all, I say Shalom. My name is Ahmawan Ahyash. Back with another lesson through the power and the spirit of Yahweh by Yahawashi. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying, and I wanted to just do a quick lesson on just like the give an update on this, on what's been going on with the whole situation in Minneapolis, which is a hot topic right now, which we feel through the spirit. Us here at Great Millstone, the men of Yahweh by Yahawashi, that we feel like this could be set the precedent for what could be, martial law, which could be riots in the streets, which could be civil war, all of these things that can cause a lot of chaos. Okay. We know at some point there's going to be an event it'll be the straw that breaks the camel's back. You know what I mean? And that one incident, we're not necessarily saying that this is that incident, but man, when you see it, you see the tension, when you see the chaos and the confusion, especially when there's lives that have been lost here. You know what I mean? And things are getting crazy once they start killing Edomites. You know what I'm saying? Or would appear to be Edomites. You know what I mean? Now we know Jacob's trouble that's going to take place. We know that is a judgment from Yahweh by Yahawashi for 2/3 of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. However, there's going to be events that's going to lead up to that, right? A lot of this, even a lot of the conversation is revolving around race, regardless of who's being murdered. These ICE agents are out there for so-called illegal immigrants, which is a lot of them, majority of them are the northern tribes, a lot of the Hispanic tribes. And, so we know that these ICE agents, and we know that the so-called illegals, the issue is with, Israel. However, when it comes to protesting, when it comes to, that clashing of ideas and thoughts and philosophies, people have a certain, these Babylonians, they have a certain vision, they have a certain idea of what America should be and what it should look like and how it should be, how it should run and how it should operate, right? But when you got somebody in office and administration that's currently set with Trump, and his people and how they work, they're coming in the spirit of more of a dictator, right? Where those so-called rights and constitutional rights, those amendments, all these different, so-called freedoms and liberties that you have here, once you speak up against, the government and the power structure that's set up, we've been mentioning it for a while now, you become an enemy of the state. Okay. And now what we're going to start seeing is a little bit more, a lot more of that back and forth, because we know what the scriptures say. We know that a big part of the fall of Babylon will be from the inside. It will be from within. It'll be the infighting that's going on from within. And that's some of what I want to highlight in this lesson. At this video, and this is going to be fair use, I'm going to play this video. I'm going to play a little bit of it just to kind of give you an idea, because there's been other border patrol agents and ICE agents that haven't really been happy with the actions of the ICE agents in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the events that have been taking place. And that's part of the infighting that we're going to be highlighting, that we're going to be showing. This side versus that side, Democrats versus Republicans. You got these neocons that have, they have their stance, and, a lot of them are coming out, some of them are for Trump, some of them are against Trump. Some of them are, you might even be for Trump, but you might not be, happy with, your decision to, stand with things that have been happening with these ICE agents or whatever the case. So it's just a lot of confusion, right? And that's what we're going to start seeing. A lot of confusion, a lot of this side versus that side. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of rebellion taking place here, okay, which is going to lead to the downfall of the space. It's going to lead to, people taking sides, and we're seeing it now. So let me play a little bit of this to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And I got a quick article and I got some precepts.
By the way, you probably already know that, but mega traffic.
And as you can see, it says, ICE unloads, immigration officers speak out. F this, right? The title of this video is F this, even ICE agents disgusted with ICE thuggery in Minnesota. All right, so let me play it.
So everyone was posting this, and some of the quotes just from Ken's sources. Here's one. One ICE agent tells Ken, "I can go on and on, but overall, it's been a ridiculous experience." Another one says, "As much as I support this administration, there needs to be more common sense in situations like this, not a knee-jerk damage control narrative that..."
And exactly what I mentioned. The comment was, even though I support this administration, basically I can't be for some of the things that have happened, some of the things that they're justifying, some of the things that they're allowing. Okay, so that's the differences in ideas and opinions. One side versus that side. Yeah, I'm for this person, but hold on, he might be doing a little bit too much right now.
Does not line up with the evidence on video that was from a Border Patrol agent. So, Ken, thanks for joining us. Please walk us through your reporting here. What are you hearing from inside these agencies?
One of the things that surprised me most was I asked each of the people I interviewed, which is 8 people from both ICE and Border Patrol. One of the most surprising things was asking about the shooting this past week, and every single one of them blamed the Border Patrol officers involved.
Happy Valentine's! From 1-800-Flowers.com.
It was one word to describe our relationship.
Roller coaster.
Every single one of them blamed the Border Patrol officers involved. And I want to stress, that's not coming from some liberal lefty position. I think every person I talked to, maybe with the exception of one, were Republicans. They just thought it was unprofessional, chaotic, and crazy. And when you talk to them, you get the impression of an episode of Reno 911 more than some federal elite law enforcement response like it's been framed by the administration. And they would basically say that themselves because they've been inundated in young, inexperienced recruits who I thought, when I talked to them, they'd be excited about this tripling of the ICE law enforcement budget.
See, and that's part of what we're talking about and what we're seeing. He mentioned that it's just been chaotic. He said they've tripled the amount of ICE agents on the scene. They've tripled them. They're recruiting in a certain kind of numbers where people are going like, hold on, what's really going on with this law enforcement agency? What's going on with the Trump administration? Like, what's the goal here? You know what I'm saying? That people looking at it a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? So we're expecting all hell to break loose. We're expecting them to continue to ramp up the law enforcement. What martial law looks like. They've been saying this is like a soft martial law, you know what I mean, to where not fully implemented, where they have actual military on the streets guiding you, where you can and can't go, and shutting down different highways and all these different type of things. But when you see masked agents that you can't readily identify, and you see just a very different energy with law enforcement, which we're seeing with these. This ain't normal. You know what I mean? You're gonna start. It'll make you. It'll raise your eyebrows. It'll make you go, hold on, something ain't right with this. And this is what they're talking about.
All of them said that these new recruits are useless because they haven't been trained. They don't know what the hell's going on. They've been dumped into this foreign context that's completely different from where Border Patrol.
And again, so they're hiring all these ICE agents. They haven't been trained. They're going up on these scenes. If you see an ICE agent pull their gun or pepper spray, it's probably out of fear. Like, hold on, I'm not letting you get the drop on me because I don't even really know how to react in these situations because I ain't been trained properly. So if, you're in a city like Minnesota where it's an open carry state, and you see protesters, you see the hostility behind it. You might even see a gun on somebody's hip, but you're not really used to that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't, you're probably gonna be quick to protect yourself, right? It's my life versus yours. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean that's part of what we could probably get used to seeing as these protests continue, not only in Minneapolis but in different cities, man.
Usually primarily operates, or even what ICE typically does. And so it was kind of this topsy-turvy, like opposite in so many ways of what I'd expected that I was going to find when I talked to them. Because they all support immigration enforcement in principle. They just don't support what's taking place because it's not immigration enforcement. It's become a national security mission, as was described to me, a counterinsurgency against the protesters on the ground who the federal government perceives to be terrorists, and they've said that openly.
How does that square?
Yeah, so and that's what people are saying. I support ICE. I support the agency that's going to go out and make sure and do their job, but do it the right way, not the way that they've been doing it. You know what I mean? That's part of the the infighting. He says something at the very end. Let me just rewind it and play again. Let me
counterinsurgency against the protesters on the ground who the federal government perceives to be terrorists, and they've said that openly.
That's what I wanted to mention. The federal government is identifying and characterizing these protesters as domestic terrorists, basically enemies of the state. You come up against us, you are against anything that we say, then you are anti-American, and ultimately your life doesn't matter at that point. Once we classify you as that, you know what I mean? So this is something that we have to continue to watch. We have to keep our eye on this situation and the ones that are going to come after, because we don't think this is the end of it. You know what I mean? It has to be more that comes with this, right? Because typically, right, you would see something like this and you would see it die down after a few days, or maybe at the week the most. You won't really hear it reported as heavily, but this thing is ongoing. This thing ain't dying down, and that's something to keep your eye on, right? I just Googled it real quick. It says about how some ICE agents weren't, some different Border Patrol agents weren't happy with the, how they was policing the Minnesota situation. It says reports indicate that some ICE and HSI agents expressed disapproval of tactics used by a special group of agents during operations in Minneapolis. Critics within and outside the agency described the actions as out of control and involving a small group of agents, raising concerns about improper conduct and lack of supervision. Right, so this is not something that we're just pulling out of our it's things that are being reported in a certain kind of way. I was looking at a Reddit, this one right here, this Reddit article, so I was reading through it. It was saying ICE agents fed up and exhausted in Minneapolis. Lots of people are freaking out. Once ICE agents told me agents are getting seriously paranoid, afraid of being targeted by retaliators. And that's what I mean about some of those ICE agents who aren't necessarily trained to be out there and deal with, especially in an open carry state, right? They're not trained properly. So what they're going to be paranoid. They're going to be paranoid, and they're going to be on guard for retaliation for these type of things. You start seeing hundreds and hundreds of protesters. And even with those that do have training, you got to think about it, man. You got hundreds of people out there rallying around, protesting against, what you stand for. That's not an everyday thing for you. I don't care how much you train. You're going to feel some kind of way about that type of opposition. You know what I mean? So again, we have to keep our eye on this. Let me get And this actually came to me as well. Federal agents involved in the Purdy shooting in Minneapolis placed on administrative leave, sources say. So those cops was placed on a leave recently. So this is interesting as well. Just to add to the information, just to add to everything that's going along with the situation. You got to keep your eye on these things, man. So let me just get a couple precepts to go along with this, because again, it's something to keep your eye on. We are the watchmen. We have to keep our eye on this. We have to report this. We have to warn the elect what to stay away from it. And if you new coming into this truth, into this faith, and you are watching these lessons, you have to understand something. This is not your fight. Don't ever feel like you need to go out to any type of protest, or you need to go out there and stand for anybody and their rights. There's no such thing as rights here in America amongst the Edomites, okay? Amongst this man's powers. He don't care. There's no such thing as real justice with this man, right? So you protesting is just only gonna get you caught up in some shit that you ain't even a part of. This just ain't your fight. It ain't your fight. You know what I'm saying? We're not fighting for Babylon. We're not fighting for nobody's rights. We're here for the elect. All right. Matthew 12:25. And Yahawashi knew their thoughts, and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. Right? So a city or a house divided against itself shall not stand. The infighting will bring the house down from the inside. Okay, much easier than the war from the outside. Okay, if you have a group, or you have an organization, and there's infighting, and there's people not agreeing. If you have a business and you're running a business with a group of people, and y'all are all making these type of decisions, and it's just y'all just constantly bumping heads, and you can't figure out how to come to a common ground or agree, eventually that business is gonna fail. Because it's one agenda versus the next. It's one side, one opinion against the next. You're not going to be able to get it on the same page. It's eventually going to fail. It says, and if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then shall his kingdom stand? Yeah, because it's a Babylon, Egyptian versus Egyptian. And then you ain't going to be able to. And they're all Edomites. They're all Satan. Right? And even if you got some Jakes that are part of this and are trying to, be a part of this, it's Satan, man. Satan got this, got this spirit, They're controlled by the spiritual demon Satan, man. So stay away from these protests, man, because it's not your fight. 2nd Ezra chapter 16, and I want to read let's see. Second Ezra 16. Actually, let's just do 15, because Second Ezra 15-16, straight to the point. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. Okay, so we're going to start seeing that martial law take. It ain't going to be a soft martial law. It's going to be a harsh martial law. It's going to be something that you're not going to be able to really, that protesting shit's going to be a thing of the past. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go out there with your picket signs. You're going to get shot. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get detained. Okay? Because Esau, the devil shall come down. He's going to come down with that great wrath. And at some point, it ain't going to just be about handcuffs. It's going to be about getting shot and stabbed and put down. You're going to be getting put down playing with this devil. Right? Verse 18, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed. Men shall be afraid. Right? A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of lack of bread for great tribulation. So we're going to start seeing some real heavy judgments come down here in Babylon the Great as we approach the end of this thing. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope you were edified. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahawashi, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the elect. Shalom.